Disclaimer. Tonight's story is based on a disturbing account shared online years ago, then quietly deleted. Names, location details, and identifying information have been changed out of respect for the people involved. But the central claim remained the same in every version. A young woman joined a prayer group that only met at 3:33 a.m. A few weeks later, someone in her family died. My sister didn't start acting strange all at once. It began with little things. Whispering in empty rooms, waking up at exactly 3:33 every night, and standing in the hallway with that distant look on her face, like she was listening to someone I couldn't hear. Then she joined a church none of us had ever heard of. They didn't hold Sunday services. They didn't have a website. And according to my sister, they only prayed once a day, at 3:33 in the morning. I thought it was some weird religious phase, until I followed her there one night and saw what they were really doing in that basement. And when they turned to look at me, I realized they hadn't been praying for her. They'd been waiting for me. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you enjoy dark, atmospheric horror stories like this one, hit like, subscribe, and stick with me until the end. Because this story doesn't just get creepy. It gets worse every minute. And if you've ever had a family member come home feeling like they weren't entirely the same person anymore, let me know in the comments. Now let's get into tonight's story. I used to think people noticed evil the moment it entered a house, like the temperature would drop, or the lights would flicker, or some deep instinct would tell you that something was wrong. That's not how it happened with my sister. It happened slowly, quietly, the kind of slow that makes you question yourself before you question them. My name's Daniel. I was 28 when all of this happened, and my sister Rebecca was 23. After our mother died, Rebecca moved back in with me for a while. We lived in the same old house we grew up in, a narrow 2-story place on the edge of a small Pennsylvania town, with creaking wooden floors, stained trim, and a basement that always smelled faintly like damp wood and rust. It wasn't a beautiful house, but it was ours. At first, moving back seemed good for her. She'd been a mess after Mom passed. We both had. She barely ate, barely slept, barely spoke above a whisper for weeks. Then, one day, something changed. She looked calmer. Not better, not happier, just calmer. Too calm. She stopped crying. She started smiling again, but it never reached her eyes. She spent long stretches of time alone in the dining room, staring at the wall clock like she was waiting for it to say something. Then the 3:33 thing started. The first time I noticed it, I got up for water around 3 in the morning and found her standing barefoot in the hallway. The house was dark except for the weak yellow light above the stove spilling into the corridor. Rebecca was facing the front door, completely still, her long blonde hair hanging over one shoulder, wearing this cream-colored knit sweater and rust-red skirt she'd started wearing a lot around the house. "Becca?" She didn't answer. I took a step closer. "What are you doing?" She turned slowly and looked at me like she was surfacing from underwater. Then she smiled. "I thought I heard knocking," she said. I looked at the door. There was nothing there. When I glanced at the clock over the entry mirror, it read 3:33 a.m. The next night, it happened again, and the next. Sometimes I'd wake up and hear her whispering downstairs. Sometimes I'd find her in the kitchen, hands folded, staring at nothing. Once I heard her laughing softly in the dining room at 3:33, like someone had just told her a joke. When I asked who she was talking to, she said, No one you'd want to meet. She said it lightly, like it was funny. It wasn't. A week later, I came home from work and found a folded pamphlet on the kitchen table. No church name on the front, no address. Just an image of a black door with a thin line of candlelight beneath it and the words, "He will hear you in the third hour." Rebecca walked in while I was reading it. "What is this?" She took the pamphlet from my hand too quickly. "Just a prayer group." "At what church?" She shrugged. "It's private." That alone annoyed me. Rebecca had never been particularly religious. Mom was spiritual in a casual, holiday-only way. We weren't church people. "Since when are you into prayer groups?" "Since I needed one." There was something in the way she said it that shut me up. But later that night, I found the pamphlet in the trash and pulled it back out. Inside was a single sentence. "Bring no jewelry. Speak only when asked. If the candles go out, do not leave your seat." That wasn't a prayer group. That was the beginning of a horror movie. I confronted her the next morning. She was sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of untouched tea, pale morning light falling over her face. "That group?" I said. "What kind of church gives people instructions like that?" Rebecca didn't even look surprised that I'd read it. "They're serious people. That's not an answer." She stared into the tea for a second. "They helped me." "With what?" She finally looked up. Her eyes were tired, but underneath the tiredness was something steady, certain. With hearing her again, I felt the blood drain from my face. Hearing who? She just looked at me. Our mother. That was the first time I got genuinely scared. Not because I thought she was possessed. Not because I believed anything supernatural. Because grief had made her vulnerable. And vulnerable people get swallowed by things like this. I told her she needed to stop seeing them. She smiled again. That small, distant smile I had started to hate. "They said you'd say that." "Who said?" "The congregation." I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "That's not helping your case?" "She isn't gone, Daniel." My jaw tightened. "Don't do that." She speaks in the silence after the prayer. "Mom is dead." The words came out harsher than I meant them to. Rebecca flinched. For a second, I saw my real sister again, hurt, thin, grieving. Then it was gone. "She came to me there," Rebecca said quietly. "The first night." I didn't know what to say after that, so I did the worst possible thing. I let it go. For the next few days, we barely talked. But I started noticing more changes. She stopped wearing the silver necklace Mom had given her. She took down the framed photo of all three of us from her room and put it in the closet. She covered the mirror on her dresser with a scarf. And every night, without fail, she left the house a little before 3. The first 2 times, I only heard the front door close. The third time, I followed her. She walked 3 blocks through our neighborhood and turned onto an older road lined with dead-looking trees and decaying stone walls. The streetlights got sparser. The houses thinned out. She stopped in front of a building I'd passed 100 times without really noticing. It looked like an old chapel that had been abandoned years ago. Steep roof, narrow windows, peeling white paint, and a sagging wooden sign with no writing left on it. No cars outside, no sound. Rebecca opened the side door and disappeared inside. I waited across the street for maybe 30 seconds, then crossed over and crept up to the building. The side door hadn't latched all the way. Inside it was dark and smelled like old paper, wax, and mildew. The main sanctuary was empty. Then I heard voices, not singing, whispering. It was coming from below. There was a basement staircase near the back, and at the bottom I saw flickering candlelight spilling into the hall. I moved down 3 steps, then 5, then all the way until I could see into the room. About 15 people sat in folding chairs arranged in a circle. Men and women, young and old. Their clothes looked plain but strangely deliberate. Cream, mustard, pale blue, soft brown, not cult robes, not costumes, just everyday clothes chosen to look gentle. At the center of the circle stood a heavy wooden chair. Rebecca was sitting in it. Her hands rested on her knees. Her eyes were closed. At the far end of the room stood a tall man in a light gray shirt with rolled sleeves and old-fashioned dark suspenders. He was probably in his 50s, with neatly combed silver hair and a face so calm it instantly made me distrust him. He spoke softly, and the group whispered the words back. Grief opens the door. The circle repeated it. Loss makes the house ready. They repeated that too. Then he lit a final candle and held it in front of Rebecca's face. Who do you seek? Rebecca whispered. My mother. My stomach twisted. The man nodded slowly. And what will you give to hear her voice again? Rebecca's lips parted. Before she could answer, something behind me creaked. Every head in the room turned at once. I stumbled backward. The man in suspenders smiled. Daniel, he said, as if he'd been expecting me. You should come in. I ran. I flew up the basement stairs, shoved through the side door, and didn't stop until I reached home. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely fit the key in the front lock. Rebecca didn't come back until dawn. When she walked in, she looked exhausted, but oddly peaceful. I was waiting in the kitchen. That's not a church, I said. She closed the door behind her and sighed. You shouldn't have come. You're damn right I shouldn't have. What are they doing to you? Her expression tightened. Nothing. They're asking what you'd give? They're putting you in the middle of a circle? That man knew my name. They know everyone's name. How? She didn't answer. I stepped closer. You are not going back there? That was when her whole face changed. Not angry, not scared. Cold. You can't stop what's already begun. Something in my chest went tight. What does that mean? She looked past me, toward the hallway mirror. It means he listened. I called the police later that day. I told them there was some kind of illegal cult meeting in the old chapel on Mercer Road. 2 officers checked it out that evening. They found the building locked. Empty. No candles. No chairs. No basement gathering. Nothing. When they left, one of them gave me that look cops give when they think someone is stressed, sleep-deprived, and not entirely reliable. Rebecca watched the cruiser pull away from the living room window. Then she said, they don't stay in one place after they're seen. I turned on her. Who are these people? But she only smiled. That night, I pushed a chair beneath the front doorknob and stayed awake in the living room. At 3:33, the grandfather clock in the hall began chiming. We didn't own a grandfather clock. The sound echoed through the house anyway. 3 slow chimes, then a pause, then 3 more, then 3 more. Rebecca's bedroom door opened upstairs. I heard her footsteps crossing the landing. Then something else. Not her footsteps. Another set. Slow, heavy, moving beside hers. I grabbed the fireplace poker and stood. Rebecca. The hallway seemed darker than it should have been. She appeared at the top of the stairs. Behind her stood a figure too tall for the ceiling, bent slightly at the neck, its shape only half visible in the dark. I couldn't make out a face, just shoulders, a long outline, and two dim points where eyes should have been. Rebecca spoke in a voice that sounded like hers and not hers. "He wants the one who still doubts." I backed away so fast I hit the wall. The figure moved, not walking, not stepping, just unfolding itself deeper into view. Then every light in the house went out. I don't clearly remember the next 10 seconds. I remember swinging the poker. I remember the smell of hot wax and wet dirt. I remember Rebecca screaming my name, or maybe warning me. Then the lights came back. The stairs were empty. No figure, no Rebecca. I found the front door open. Outside, in the wet grass beneath the porch light, was my sister's silver necklace, the one she'd stopped wearing days earlier. I drove straight to the chapel. This time the door was wide open. The sanctuary was lit with candles all the way down the center aisle, and somewhere below, I could hear that whispering again. Not human whispering. Too many voices layered together, some low, some shrill, some sounding almost like crying. I went into the basement. The chairs were there again. The circle, the candles, the man in suspenders, and Rebecca kneeling on the floor. Only now she looked horrible. Her skin was grayish pale. Her eyes were ringed dark underneath like she hadn't slept in weeks. Her hands trembled in her lap. The congregation stood around her in silence. The man smiled as I entered. "Good," he said. "Blood answers blood." I raised the poker. "Let her go." He tilted his head. "Your mother was the first invitation." "What?" He spread his hands gently, like a pastor giving a sermon. "Grief is an opening. The dead are never as quiet as people hope. Your sister listened first, but she was not the intended vessel." My mouth went dry. "What are you talking about?" "Some families carry a door inside them. It passes by sorrow, by inheritance, by surrender." His pale eyes locked on mine. "Your sister opened it. But you are the house." I wish I could tell you I laughed, that I called him insane and dragged Rebecca out. But something in the room had changed the moment I entered. The air felt thick, almost wet, and every candle flame leaned toward me. Not toward the man. Toward me. Rebecca lifted her head and looked at me. Tears had cut lines through the paleness on her face. "I tried to stop it," she whispered. The congregation began murmuring. Not English, not any language I knew. The candles guttered violently. Then they all went out. Total darkness swallowed the room. Someone grabbed my arm. Another hand touched the back of my neck. All around me, voices began speaking at once, some near my ears, some seeming to come from inside my own skull. "Daniel, we remember this house. She called for us. Let us in." I swung the poker wildly and connected with something soft. Someone screamed. Then I heard Rebecca shouting, "Run!" A match struck. For 1 second, a tiny flame illuminated the room. In that second, I saw the thing standing in the center of the circle. It was the tall shape from my staircase, but clearer now. Skin stretched too tightly over a body like burned wood, mouth split far too wide, and eyes like deep, shining holes. One of its hands rested gently on Rebecca's shoulder. The match went out. I found Rebecca in the dark and grabbed her wrist. We ran for the stairs. People were screaming behind us now. Some in panic, some in anger. Something crashed into the wall. Someone began laughing. We made it up into the sanctuary, but the front doors slammed shut. Not by wind, not by chance. Rebecca pulled away from me. "Daniel." I turned just as the basement door burst open. The thing ducked under the frame and emerged into the sanctuary, towering in the candlelight. Rebecca stepped between us. No. The thing looked at her, its head tilted. Then, slowly, it reached toward her face. I don't know why it did what it did next. Maybe because she had invited it. Maybe because she had tried to resist. Maybe because evil punishes hesitation. Its hand closed around her throat. She made one terrible choking sound. Then it lifted her off the ground. I ran at it screaming, slamming the poker into its side again and again. It barely reacted. Rebecca's legs kicked once, twice, then stopped. The thing let go. She hit the floor hard and didn't move. Something broke in me then. I grabbed one of the altar candles from the wall and shoved it into the hanging curtain near the pulpit. The old fabric caught instantly. Flames climbed upward, then leaped across the dry wood faster than I thought possible. The congregation poured up from below in panic. Some tried to flee, some dropped to their knees. The man in suspenders only stared at me with this expression of terrible disappointment. "You don't know what you've sealed?" he said. Then the ceiling above the altar cracked with a deafening snap, and he vanished in smoke and sparks. I dragged Rebecca toward the side aisle, coughing so hard I thought I'd black out. Her body was limp. Too limp. I knew, and still I dragged her, because admitting it would have killed me too. I got us outside just as fire burst through the chapel roof. I performed CPR in the grass until my arms gave out. It didn't matter. She was gone. The official story was electrical failure, structural age, tragic fire. The police never found a proper list of members. No records, no church registration, nothing linking anyone to the building. And because I had a history of grief, exhaustion, and what they called acute traumatic dissociation, no one took my version seriously. Maybe you don't either. That's fine. I moved out of that house 6 months later. I thought distance would help. It didn't. Because some nights, no matter where I sleep, I wake up at exactly 3:33 a.m. And when I open my eyes, I can hear whispering in the room. Not outside, not down the hall, right beside the bed. Last night, for the first time in 2 years, I heard my sister's voice among them. Soft, tired, crying. She only said one sentence. "Daniel, don't let it hear you praying."